20 Minute Tim's flagship podcast number 319. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm joined by Stephen.
What's happening?
And Melly.
Yes.
Nothing to talk about this week. No referees. VAR cleared it all up. Nothing to worry about. I think, Stephen, you will appreciate that the VAR integration was seamless. Absolutely seamless. Nothing to see here, nothing to talk about. Case closed.
What were we worried about? Absolutely. It's cleared up every ounce of controversy there's ever been about officiating in this country in one fell swoop. One weekend, it's all dealt with. There is simply nothing to talk about. No talking points from the weekend. Very event-free against
Tumbleweed
Hearts.
in the 20 Minute Tim studio this week. It will be. We sat last week, Melly, and we all agreed that and you can look back at last week's episode, we're going to give VAR a fair crack. We are the pundits. We need to give it a fair crack. We need to be on the level.
Don't say we are the pundits.
And we are the pundits.
What that stands for.
Hashtag WATP. We are the pundits, right? We were going to give it a fair crack, right? And Nick Walsh was first up to officiate a Celtic game with VAR. Nick Walsh, renowned for his competency, was first up to officiate a Celtic game with VAR. And what I found about the VAR, Stephen, was it's fantastic at showing up how incompetent the referees are, first of all.
Some of I've since seen back several highlights of other games as well. Obviously, the Celtic and Hearts game was a major one because there's a lot of stuff to get through in that one. But I've seen highlights, but on good old Sports Scene have shown the highlights of some of the rest of them. And the hot debate over the last number of years, however, 20 years probably, is about refs being full-time, part-time and all that, and how good can they possibly be? They don't have full-time training and all that. Decent wage for it, right enough. But 800 quid or whatever it is per game, it's all right. It's not too bad.
It's not bad.
But I could tell from watching that, a few of them were just like, I kind of preferred where I was, mate. I kind of liked it when we were just incompetent because we were part-time, and now we're being forced to do this stuff that's bringing us all straight back into the limelight again.
Well, the problem the referees have got, Melly, is, well, one of the excuses was that the VAR was taking too long, right? So we'll have the full dissection of VAR. So the complaint was, these decisions are taking too long. And there was people going, it's teething problems. You need to give them a chance to work it out and blah, blah, blah. No, this has been trial for months. You don't really get teething problems with something that's been trial for months. Secondly, all it is a TV screen at the side of the pitch and a radio connected to some more TV screens. It's not
Goals plus at the side of the pitch, basically.
It's not the most complicated thing that you have to master and work out, but still, Nick Walsh seemed to make a holics of it. So the first decision of contention was the chopped off Anthony Ralston goal.
Yep.
As far as I could tell, Nick Walsh blew for a free kick, which wasn't a free kick anyway. So he blew for that ahead of the goal going in, and then the goal was chopped off. Was that the events? Was it ball goes in, free kick blown?
Yep.
We still played after it, and the ball ended up at the back of the net. My problem there wasn't a free kick in the first place. She blown for.
Yeah, and look, it's not even you blown for. It's the whole point of VAR is that you've got a get out clause if you make a mistake, and if you're like Nick Walsh, you make lots of mistakes, you've got a get out here. You can let the play go, and then you can let it be known that VAR will tell you if you've got it wrong. Can't even do that. Minutes into the game, he gets it wrong. It was terrible for the offset because there was one, a cross comes over my head, hits a shot, it hits a guy's face, he goes down holding his face, goal kick to Hearts.
Yes.
Cool. So you knew from the offset this is going to be a badging, but the Ralston one, like, the whole thing about this is it takes away, referees can have a cop out and go, I'll just let play run on, so even if I do get it wrong, which I likely will if I'm Nick Walsh, I've got something that can get me out of jail here. He gives up that as well. Yeah. You're like, come on, mate.
I'm not going to defend Nick Walsh's bad decision making there,
Sounds
right?
like
but it sounds like I'm winding up to do it. I know, but I suppose I would say to that, Stephen, was if he thinks a foul has been committed, you can blow for that at any time because Celtic may not have scored, and then VAR would never have flagged it up, and the foul would never have been given. My point is, it wasn't a foul in the first place.
No, it's very hard to spot what they were getting at. Really, there was a minor little pull of a shirt somewhere in between Jackie Mackis and Carter Vickers and a couple of defenders. Nothing you don't see at every corner. So if you start blowing up for things like that, and the things we're seeing as well with, we'll maybe get to it later, but encroachment of the penalty area. Now, if we're looking at that now because of VAR, which is fair enough, it's one of the things that will be introduced to take care of, but we never paid a blind bit of attention to that before. So if we're now pulling up for minor little, again, this has nothing to do with VAR. If the ref is looking at that and seeing a tiny little tug of a jersey, it doesn't impede a player's run or anything like that. It hasn't stopped him. It's just that he pulled the jersey and then let go of it. So if we're getting to that stage, I find that very odd. But
so your advice to Nick Walsh would be what Melly said. Your advice would be in situations like that, just let the play go on. And if it ends up being a goal, you'll have your opportunity at the VAR review of the goal to chop it off.
Even at that, I wouldn't even let it go that far. I don't think it's a foul in the first place. I know he thinks he's seen one, and therefore I suppose it's within his right to blow his whistle if he thinks he spotted a foul. So in many ways, I'm probably just saying, no, that's a bad decision to give that foul. Now, forget VAR picking it up and all that. I don't think it was a foul in the first place.
The second one, Melly Stephen touched on was we're going to that's what we're going to be discussing today,
folks.
I mean, we didn't ask for VAR. VAR's arrived, and it's up to us to discuss it. So the second one was the penalty, the first penalty. Now that was Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Yep.
Just penalty or not, and you're. Forget VAR, forget everything else, just the tackle penalty.
Aye, penalty, definite penalty.
Would you call it a stone waller?
Aye.
Stephen, if you were 8 yards for that, would you have missed it?
Looking directly at it.
If you were 8 yards for that, looking directly at it, would you have missed it?
No, probably
Nick Walsh did. Thankfully for Nick Walsh, though, there's VAR. So the play goes on, quite rightly. He gets a wee word in his ear. I joked last week that he would get a beeper and then he would have to run to a landline and someone would fax him a picture of the incident. That probably would have been quicker than the near 2 minutes it took for them to, I don't know, he had his hand on his ear for 2 minutes. They do that. There's a lot of gesticulation with VAR. I've noticed there's increased gesticulation is one of the things that you see with VAR. He had this for 90 seconds. It must have been, to be fair, Nick, that must have been the longest 90 seconds of his life.
That's what I mean. A lot of them look like they don't want to be there anymore as well. So I think we might see a few retirements.
So I don't know what's happening in his ear, but as far as I understand, that VAR, all that's happening is, all right, ref, I think there was a penalty there with Carter-Vickers. You might want to take another look at that. We've put it on the monitor. Then off he tots over at the monitor and he awards a penalty.
Joey was hearing in his ear that entire time. Hello, sexy. I was just thinking about you.
He's probably listening
Your ass soapy.
He's probably listening to people just argue. So he goes, VAR, another gesticulation. He goes, and then it's the penalty. And
on the gesticulations, before we move away from that, I feel like a lot of them, Nick Walsh probably more than others has embraced it, right? It's the build, theatrical, the box. Some of them look right insecure with it as well. They're doing wee kind of, and this is for the benefit of the camera only, just wee sort of.
Yeah, you have to. You really have to own it.
Yeah,
you really have to
embrace it.
You have to embrace the increased gesticulation. So that goal goes in. It's scored, right? But what I noticed was, what the VAR guy didn't notice was number 77 for Hearts, Melly, was encroaching into the penalty area. Now, again, I just don't really get this. If encroaching's a thing now, Stephen.
Yep.
That's a thing. We saw it later on in the game. It happened in this game, but it's completely ignored.
The consistency.
that's what VAR used to bring, isn't it?
And it just again highlights what we said last week. Right, VAR, fine, it's in. It should be in. We're want to be a big footballing league and all that. But our problem is always going to be, it's the people running VAR that will be the problem.
Yeah.
And that's just shown up. We've said the refs are incompetent. They're so bad. And on this occasion, it's not just against Celtic, it's for both teams. He missed us 2 stonewall penalties for each team. If there was no VAR there, he would have only given 1 penalty in that game, and there was 3 absolute stonewallers.
Now,
he's missed it.
There will be a point to all of this, right? That at the end we will put a wee bow on it. But it's the first
we'll work that out as we go.
It's the first weekend of VAR, and we offered to give it the benefit of the doubt, and now the benefit of the doubt is all dried up. So
yeah, there is much doubt. There's no benefit left, only doubt.
Only so much doubt. Stephen, Melly said it. 3rd VAR incident or 4th, I've lost count already. Blatant handball.
Oh, that was the worst one. That was the worst.
Blatant handball in the box. And Nick, for all of 20 seconds, dismisses it. And I want to know, and I want to understand, why did he not check the VAR TV? What was said in his ear? Definitely not a free kick, don't give them a thing. Definitely not a penalty, don't give it to them. Because he never bothered to go and check. The last incident, foul inside the box, potential foul, he went, VAR'd it, looked at the TV screen, awarded it. This one, he didn't award it, gave us the signal, touched his ear, he was getting told something, and then play continued. But it was a stone waller.
Oh, it was ridiculous. There's no debate about that. You can make all the unnatural position chat all you want. He leaned right into it, and he immediately pulled his hand away back and made the kind of puffed out cheeks face as if, right, I'm in trouble here. It was right on the stroke of half time. It was an absolute stonewall handball. And again, what this throws up is that VAR isn't even equipped to negotiate the various pish we hear all the time about the changing handball rules. Is it deliberate? Is it this? Michael Stewart, the thinking man's idiot punditry, made the point that it has to be deliberate. Well, who's judging that? Which mind reader? Have we got VAR mind reading as well? So I don't buy that for a second. The best part of it though, the best part of punditry about it was on SportsSound. Do you hear that with Kenny Miller talking about it?
No.
Now he said it wasn't a penalty. And I'll give a couple of seconds for everyone to gather themselves after fainting with surprise at Kenny Miller didn't think it was a penalty, because he said the hand was in a natural-ish position. And you know what I thought? Natural-ish. No, wait a minute. There's only two categories here. There is natural and there is unnatural. Imagine you were entering, let's say, a bodybuilding competition.
Oh, yeah.
Put me down as natural-ish.
Well, I was thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, just putting it out there. But just stick me down as natural-ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they'd be like, no, wait a minute, there's only natural and there's unnatural. Get out of my sight.
Well, it's Kenny Miller's tan, isn't it?
And that's Mr. Universe.
And that is Mr. Universe. So that one perplexed me. How Nick Walsh again missed it. How VAR seemingly missed it.
That's the problem with this one, is it? Nick Walsh misses it, so you think, right, VAR will get that because I'm up the other end, I can see it, Ange can see it, everybody can see it. And VAR gets replay after replay and dismisses it. So this is where we go, right, it's not VAR that's the problem, it's the guys using VAR, so we said it would be.
So what must have happened there was, in his ear, Nicky, you want another look at that, son? And he's went, nah, definitely not a penalty.
I don't think so. I think it must have been, that's not a penalty.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think the VAR people went, nothing to see here, not a penalty?
Yeah, I think so.
That throws up more questions than answers.
Exactly.
Again, as I say, it's probably not equipped to negotiate the various aspects of the confusing handball rule as well, because I don't know now, as we sit here in October 2022, I don't know what the official wording of the handball rule is, but see if you lean towards the ball when it's going past you, when you've made your body bigger in order to block the ball going past you, even if you regret it in the split second that you did it, you think to yourself, I shouldn't have done that. It's still a penalty. Of course it is. It's an absolute stonewaller.
I just think, what is happening inside that VAR control room? You know, they all ordered in lunch. Like, what's that, Cameron? What have you got there? Chips? And then that Argyle passes that. Right. Did anybody see that? Was that a penalty? I missed it. Right, never mind. We'll get another one.
Campbell, did you catch that one?
No, and he's too busy.
No.
You know, have you got the curry sauce over there?
It was right before half time, so the scran might have came out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Actually, the half time pie.
Ferguson, did you get
that? Right. Next up, what was next? The penalty. The actual encroachment penalty. We had the incident where Jens, penalty or no penalty, Stephen?
Oh, that's a stonewall penalty. Yeah. That's an absolute penalty.
We'll get to the Celtic performance.
I don't think that was the debatable one. There was a lot of chat about the Cameron Carter-Vickers one. Now, we've already said we think it's Melly has already said he thinks it's a stonewaller. I don't think there's any debate over the Jens one. I've seen the quite tiresome debate involving stills with the Cameron Carter-Vickers one, where it basically amounts to a picture of the two kind of toes meeting with the ball underneath, who got to it first, who just about scraped their studs onto the ball first. But to me, that doesn't really matter, because what happened immediately after that was Cameron Carter-Vickers came straight through and bundled him over with his thigh on the back end of the challenge, as it were. He just bundled them over. So I think that's where the foul comes in, never mind who just about toe poked each other.
I've got no time for very little time, especially when it comes to the subject of fouls and penalties, for online stills. It really doesn't tell the full story. But the Jens one, for me, definitely a penalty.
Yeah, I thought it straight away, and he puts his arms up and you're like, I think it was more the fact that he'd already been booked. He was hoping he wouldn't get a second booking and said, he's already been booked. But giving away a foul in the box doesn't automatically mean you get a yellow card. But I thought it was another stonewall penalty again. The penalties were easy decisions to me.
Yeah, this is it. So the penalty goes, he misses this one, but coincidentally the ref spots the encroachment. The VAR guy spots the encroachment on the one he missed, not the one he scores. And then this thing that I'd never encountered before, I've obviously maybe seen it, but I've no memory of seeing it, Stephen, is if there's encroachment, you get to re-hit the penalty.
Yeah.
Which,
so it only really counts for ones that are missed. So you never really examine that thing if the ball goes in.
Yeah.
I can't imagine for a single second someone taking a penalty. Maybe it will come in the next few weeks. We're in for a bumpy one here.
Yeah.
It may come, but I can't imagine.
You're going to hear a lot of the word encroachment.
Oh, yeah. I know. For the first time ever in Scottish football, we're going to be into this kind of thing. But I don't see for a second anyone scoring a penalty and it being pulled back for encroachment.
No.
It remains to be seen, but I'd be very surprised. It's clearly the only type of thing they look at when it's been missed.
Do we need to change the penalty rules here slightly? Do we need to? Because it seems to me you could get rid of this whole encroachment argument quite easily by saying, see, everyone that's not taking the penalty, halfway line. And then whatever happens, it's a breaking play. You don't get to.
You're not imagining a big sprint towards the box. You're saying basically it's out of play.
It's out of play.
Yeah,
After the
right,
penalty's hit, it's out of play. So if it goes in, it's a goal. If you miss it and it goes out, you're not allowed to hit your own rebound. We'll adopt the Stephen rule there. So you get one kick at it.
Just imagine Aaron Mooy wheezing his way from the halfway line to try and.
Do you remember American football? Not American football, American soccer.
Yeah.
What did they have?
They ran for the halfway line and
their penalties. Was that a penalty? Or was
Yeah,
that how
it's
they
a
settled
penalty,
the game?
That's
They
a
ran.
penalty shootout,
They ran from the halfway line, like the charity guys. They remember sometimes they do that at
Yeah,
Celtic
yeah.
Park at half time.
there's a lot wrong with penalties because, as Stephen says, if that goal had accounted again, Hearts get a penalty, he misses, the ball falls back to him, and he's able to take another go at it. I don't like that either. It just seems to be, and look, I get it. You're being punished because you fouled somebody in the box. It's a punishment, but how far does the punishment go? And I'm not just saying that because Celtic, because it's crap being a keeper. You save a penalty, and then the guy's just got a tap in straight away, or he plays it and Ginelli comes in. If that counts, you're like, where does it end? Because even if we do your way, which I don't think it would work, but go back to the halfway line. See if a guy took a shot and the keeper saved it. Imagine it fell back to the guy, he took another shot and the keeper, and people are just running in. It'd be utter chaos. But I think something does need to be done. It feels like in football the rules haven't quite caught up with VAR yet. There's nobody sat down and right, this VAR hangs in. How are we going to negotiate it? Because even like the offside. We'll come on to the Abada one at
That's
the end.
next, so you can just bring it up. So the next one we're going to talk about is the Abada offside decision.
Yeah, right. See, for the linesman, there's no way you can tell as a linesman that's offside. And then even when we get VAR in, show us an angle or something, or show us lines. Because Bobby Madden apparently put on Instagram that it's up to the broadcaster to show the pictures with lines. They do get it, so they chose not to see it. That's the whole point.
Why do you think
VAR.
they chose not to see it? Do you think maybe they chose not to see it because they'd realised a mistake had been made, and if they throw the graphic up on screen, they don't want to throw the VAR under the bus in the first game because there's actual proof that a mistake was made?
It's the broadcaster, isn't it?
It's I think it's no out with the realms of possibility that Sky have got a sympathetic relationship here and they don't want the whole conversation to be about how they made a screw up with this VAR thing, because they did have the graphic and it wasn't the offside, was it?
I thought in many ways it'd probably be better for Sky if it was contentious and controversial and everyone was watching clips of it and all that online. And it's not the broadcaster's decision, or it shouldn't be. It's not their responsibility to show the audience or choose not to show the audience.
You think it should be full disclosure every time there's a VAR call shows the graphic?
Not necessarily full disclosure, but
is that not the point?
But you need to give us an angle. You need to give us something. You can't just say a VAR decision was made. Take our word for it.
Even BBC, when on BBC Sports Scene, not Goals Plus, Full Fat on Full Fat Sports Scene, there's an offside goal. There was a couple of offside decisions in the game. I think there was 2 actually. They showed the graphic for the first one, which was offside, but they didn't show the graphic for the Abada one. They just went, there was a VAR call for offside there.
I don't even know if it is offside still.
I don't think it was.
VAR.
That was the tightest one. That was the one we needed proof for. That was the one we needed some sort of evidence to, if it's offside, so be it. If he's a toe or whatever offside, if he's a kneecap or a shoulder, whatever, however they're drawing the lines these days.
I was half expecting a wee ruler with shatterproof.
Jurassic Park ruler across the screen. We needed to see that one. We didn't need to see much of the handball. I think we could make our own minds up about. But if one's as tight as that, and as Melly said, we spoke about this probably as recently as last week. It's just guessing from the linesman. There's no way you can see across that line when the ball is in, moving and the players are sprinting. Players are faster now than they've ever been. It's very, very difficult to get those calls exactly right. No, exactly. So, it's very, very difficult to get those calls right. So he has just stuck his flag up, or he has called that for offside. If he was right, tell us that.
Yeah,
we'll need to live with it, because that's the point of the whole setup.
We watched Sports Scene before we sat down at recording. Is it the Aberdeen goal we watched? And you're like, that's no offside. The linesman puts his flag up when it goes in, and then we get the VAR. It's nowhere near offside. No. So again, it's just a pure guess from them every time. And Jamie's always said, linesmen guess. They guess a lot of the time. And now we've got VAR. We've just been shown up that, look, we've been moaning about this for years. And the first weekend you come in, it's going to be everybody, all eyes on it. Making a rip roller of it already.
Ange doesn't have much sympathy for it. He says we had to overcome VAR on this occasion, and I'm glad we did end up getting the win, because we discussed a couple of weeks ago, you're not allowed to complain when you win handsomely about you're not allowed.
Just last week we discussed.
Yeah. So you are. Well, it was the Edinburgh teams, isn't it? So we beat both Edinburgh teams, and there was contentious referee decision, and we can't complain about it, or else the boys from I don't know, nobody really watches it, that TV show that I think it's called what's it called? The one on the terrace.
El Dorado.
Aye, it's about as popular as El Dorado. They really kick up if you beat an Edinburgh team and you complain about the referees. Another person who is absolutely deluded about the result was Robbie Neilson. He said, quote, Stephen, "We went toe to toe with Celtic today. We rattled them." You rattled us 4-3?
Does he mean very literally rattled, as in we were kind of shaken, we were terrified?
Maybe
I don't think he means rattled as in
battered us.
Just sort of unpleasant connotation of being Celtic being rattled.
Do you think we were shaken? I don't think at any time in the game we looked shaken by Hearts.
It was an entertaining game. It was a back and forth. Clearly, Celtic were in danger of dropping some points.
It was a slobber knocker.
It was a slobber knocker. I had a good time. I thoroughly enjoyed my afternoon. I watched it in the Berlin CSC.
Oh, did you?
Elvino did flow.
Mr. Worldwide over there.
He's over there signing autographs, getting pictures, kissing babies.
Quite enjoyed it, particularly as the afternoon went on a bit. Spent a bit too much time in there, but another result rolled in late in the afternoon, which just sort of brought everything straight back up again. So yeah, it was thoroughly enjoyable. But it's a great game. I can't really. I mean, it was a great afternoon in terms of the result. Of course, I can't really think back and think, right, Celtic were really on the ropes there. I mean, I know we're losing a couple of points in the game, but I don't know if I can necessarily agree with his description of the game as being rattled. I think he's as deluded about that as he is about his hair these days.
No. Look, we can't do this 2 weeks in a row, because last week we had to go at the Hibs manager for his clobber, and now we can't slag the appearance of Robbie Neilson. Melee.
He's a moany bastard, isn't he? It's always something. His team benefited from near enough, in fact, from all the VAR decisions, and he still moaned about it. He's lost 10 games in 15. He seems
he's going to get the sack.
I think so. I think he'll be fine. I just don't see it.
But these Hearts fans are calling for this. I think Hearts fans have called for the sack of Robbie Neilson on 3 separate occasions. Did they not do it?
They did it,
and then he got them promoted, and then they were wanting him sacked. For some reason, they always want rid of him. And to be honest, with this record, he's probably on a sugary peg.
Yeah, like the brand of football he plays isn't very stylish at all. But I thought Hearts, maybe they did rattle Celtic in the fact that I thought Celtic found it difficult to get out. I find when Celtic have Giakoumakis, we sort of go a bit too direct to him. Sometimes it works, sometimes, but I thought
19 goals and 20 starts.
Aye, you can't argue with that, but it's the sort of get out, well, we'll just punt it long if we're in trouble, instead of if Kyogo's playing, there's no point doing that, so we try and work it a bit more. But it was more Hearts didn't press Carter Vickers or Jens. They waited until the ball went to O'Reilly and the 2 fullbacks, and they sort of had the striker going between the 2 centre-halves, and they had the 2 wide players and Snodgrass, I think it was, closing down the free.
Just as you mentioned Snodgrass there, I'm reminded of something that Stephen said pre-record.
Hands up if this is how you found out Robert Snodgrass played for Hearts, because I had absolutely no idea. I saw him take a shot in the first half. I was like, that's the other Graham Dorrans in this team. How did they end up with Robert Snodgrass? But I was blown away by surprise with it.
They all come crawling back, don't they? All come crawling back.
I did like to say, I have many many problems with Celtic TV's commentary team.
Yes.
Many problems.
We'll get on to that.
That's me finished. No, but see, in fairness, Jerry did have a bit of a zinger when he was talking about Snodgrass just after he had a shot. He said a really good, successful, long career, lucrative career down south, but he's getting to that twilight stage where you have to make a decision. You either hang up your boots or you go and sign for Hearts. That's a belter, Jerry. Always forgiven. But before I forget as well, if VAR, and yeah, it is going to be a thing, we have to accept it now. We have to open our hearts and our arms to VAR. We need Tom Boyd off those broadcasts.
Tom Boyd, we love you.
Yeah, he's going to make himself ill.
Celtic great, Celtic legend, but we can't have a 60-year-old man hyperventing over referees' decisions at all times.
Working himself into illness.
Yes.
This, to be honest, he's losing it, but I feel bad for him.
I know, I watched back the game and it was obviously in Celtic TV. Tom, man. Still, how does that goal count if Ralston doesn't, lad? It doesn't.
To be fair to him, it's exactly what we've been doing for the last time.
Yeah.
So, can't believe the guy's stewing over refereeing decisions. Meanwhile, us three are sat here.
He's only saying what we're all thinking, but too much.
But just back to Hearts, I thought the way they pressed Celtic, they let the two centre-halves have it, and then as soon as the ball went to the two full-backs and Matt O'Reilly, they pressed it, and I think it was O'Reilly, he wasn't poor, but he got caught on the ball a bit more. And it was a game where I think it was a game where it's not really happened too much, but I noticed we missed Callum McGregor here because he would have found the pockets of space to receive the ball. And Ralston and more so Bernabei were just getting caught on the ball. But I also include maybe Mooy and Hatate and the two wide players, like, not making themselves available when it got into those guys. I think Hearts played us quite well, but everybody just had to work a bit harder. And I think, come on to Bernabei, but I just think playing him in games like Hibs and St Johnstone, that's fine, but Hearts away is a bit of a sticky one to throw a guy like that in. I know he's been playing well and all that, but just one of those games, look, he'll learn a lot from this, but it's a real tough one to throw him in. And
I think you've been very polite. I mean, it was bowling goalie-esque.
It was,
some of his performances.
Bernard Hayes, he had an absolute shocker. But the thing is, I'm open to that. I'm okay with that, him having the odd shocker, because I think it's what I've been saying all along with him. Since he's been into the team more regularly, he hasn't had a consistent run in the team, because he's not going to get one, because Greg Taylor's been absolutely brilliant for him. But when he does come in, my overriding thought about him is that he's going to have the odd shocker here and there, just because of how he plays. And again, the things I've been saying the whole time, a young player adjusting to new environments, he's very aggressive, very positive, very direct. That is going to cause problems on occasion until he settles down, becomes a wee bit more aware of his surroundings, a wee bit more accustomed to his teammates and all that. He's going to drop the odd clanger here and there. It's just, it wasn't even that bad. It was just his passing was bad. He gave
some of
the
his
ball
defensive work
he was
as well.
absolutely shocking. Everything he done.
Yeah. His passing was very bad. He was skinned a couple of times. Didn't cut out a cross when
all the goals.
Yes, yeah. So I tried there, didn't I?
You did. You tried. You really tried your best.
But yeah, we maybe don't want him to have bad games to that extent. But I think we should be aware of the idea that might happen on occasion as he adjusts his surroundings, because he is that type of player. It's a kind of rough with the smooth thing. We've got a few players like that. We have got a few players who you can afford to, carries the wrong word, but I think what I'm trying to get is that you can afford to have a player in the team, even if he's not performing all that well, because of something else he adds. We've spoken about Maeda, and I know that got to the kind of borderline of he's not contributing anything other than running about, but he's thankfully getting a couple of goals. Hatate's another one. I know I want to talk about Hatate tonight, because I thought he's been absolutely excellent recently. But Bernabei's another one of those guys where we might have to just put up with a couple of shockers from him on occasion as he's
it's that old cliche about young players, isn't it? You know, that their form dips in and out.
He'll learn more for that game than he will that 6-1 against Hibs or whatever.
I love to be in a fly in the ball when they do the analysis, up at Lennoxtown. They watch the game.
Take a seat.
And you get comfortable, you'll be here for a wee while.
It wasn't. It was simple things, but in his game, he get caught on the ball for one of the goals that goes out, and most of them are crosses from his side where he's not close enough to Ginelli or whoever is crossing it. The second Hearts goal, it's his side and it goes in. You're like, he's got out to the ball quicker, and then the next one again for the third, the second penalty, he doesn't close down again. The ball comes in, and then Jens, it seemed to be all down his side. passing was poor, but Hearts were right on him, pressing him, so it's obviously something they targeted. But look, he'll learn from that, and I've no worries about him. It was just a bad game for him, and look, Celtic still got through it. And look, while we say Robbie Neilson, Hearts rattled us, it wasn't like the St Mirren game where you're looking at it going, we're 2-1 down. How are we going to get out of this? That still 40 minutes to go, we'll be fine. And then even when Hearts get it back to 3 each, and you're looking at Celtic, like Taylor's coming on, Abada, Haksabanovic, like I think we've still got it in us to win us, and that's no just arrogance. That's just what Ange's built here, because every goal we let in, so you let in 3 goals, a guy gets a hat-trick against you, didn't seem to faze the players. And look, that's a tough away ground to go to, tough place to go to without your captain. Celtic were up against it, but they never looked up against it to me.
Well, that's his loser talk for Robbie Neilson. You know, he's scored 3 goals against us.
He's a lot of that in Scottish football.
I know he's scored 3 goals against us. He's lost 4 and he's come that way praising the team. I mean, you think that's your home ground. That's one of the games at the beginning of the season he'd want to try and take some points, and he couldn't do it. You were at the game, Melly. Forgot to mention at the top of the podcast, patreon.com/20minute-tims. You have match reactions for every single Celtic match reaction podcast, but we also have a whole host of other great content, including an exclusive Discord for all-in members. We think it's a fantastic Celtic community where we're discussing Celtic, all aspects of Celtic, but there's loads of great stuff in there. We discuss everything. We just share our lives in the Discord. This episode of 20 Minute Tims is sponsored by NordVPN. NordVPN offer you premium cybersecurity and up to 6 devices for the price of a cup of coffee per month. You can also change your virtual location for all your streaming services, and it protects your computer on public Wi-Fi, amongst many other benefits. I particularly use NordVPN when I'm wanting to shift up things and watch some different content on other streaming services, unnamed movie streaming services. You can switch up the content on that by changing your virtual location. So you can grab your exclusive NordVPN discount deal by going to nordvpn.com/Tims, and that'll get you a huge discount off of your NordVPN plan, plus 4 months for free. Moreover, it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And that's nordvpn.com/Tims to get yourself a huge discount off of a Nord plan, plus an additional 4 months for free. Jota, Ange said that he's back. He'll be training this week. He might be available for the weekend fixture. But in the meantime, Abada and James Forrest are fighting it out to see who can impress the manager more, to see if they can keep Jota's return at bay. James Forrest obviously doing what James Forrest does. James Forrest tings. Abada weighing in with some goals. We've not really got to discuss the Motherwell match much, because by the time you guys watch this, it'll be a week old. But I've got a question to ask you. Is Abada better without the ball?
Yes. The Motherwell game was incredible. You're kind of right, we can't argue with this guy because he's scoring, but at the same time, yes, you can, because his rest of his play is so poor. There's even one against Hearts that came on, the ball goes out to him. He's got acres of time to put the ball across, and he puts it straight into Craig Gordon's hands. Acres of time.
Acres of time.
Bro, how are we measuring that now?
Can you just, Stephen, what is an acre?
Oh, it's an expanse of land. It's a unit of...
Is it?
A unit of distance, isn't it? Or area, rather.
See if an acre's a unit of distance, Stephen, right? Why is Melly saying acres of time? No idea.
No, I don't. I simply do not know. But I don't think anyone noticed. So what we'll do is we'll plough on.
You dummy.
Plough that acre of time.
Okay, there we go, Melly.
What we'll do is I'll not edit my mistake like you done for your wee one there.
And let them peek behind the curtain.
Acres of space and time.
Right, okay.
And he just puts it in Craig Gordon's arms. So he's kind of like Raheem Sterling, I think, that sort of player. Now, look, Abada, he does come up with goals.
Are you sure? Are you sure Abada's like Raheem Sterling? Because Raheem Sterling's really good.
But he's not a guy that takes the ball, skins players and gets it in, is he? He finds these spaces and scores. But when you see the rest, look, Raheem Sterling's a really good player, but kind of the pre-marked version of Raheem Sterling for me. And I think just the way Celtic play with their wingers, I think Abada would be good in another team. Not saying this team, but the way Liverpool play with their 2 fullbacks going on the outside and the 2 forwards move inside, that's more Abada's game, not the opposite, where the fullbacks go inside and the wingers go outside. But look, he scores goals, and his all-round play is fine when you're playing Motherwell and everybody else is playing well and contributing. It's when that falls down, and look, St Mirren game where him and Maeda having bad games, where you go, this isn't working with those two. And I worried about that in the Hearts game with Forrest and Maeda, because said it, it's got to be Jota and Haksabanovic on one side and then the other three, one on the other. And look, while Forrest and Maeda weren't great, when Abada came on, it was much of the same. The Motherwell game, he got 2 goals, but his all-round performance was poor.
Got to admit, Stephen, when I see Abada on the right-hand side of the wing making a tits of a cross repeatedly, I want to set myself on fire. I want to set myself ablaze because I am sick to the back teeth of seeing it. Then the guy pops up and scores handfuls of goals, and I'm like, I don't know what to do, Abada. I don't know how to resolve this.
I think I said that during the week as well. I've got no idea what I'm watching with Abada anymore. I've got no idea how to talk about him because the fact is, the guy's just, whatever it is, he's got it in front of goal. Both of his goals against Motherwell were from between the posts, so proper like striker's position. That's exactly where you want your centre forward to be. I don't necessarily buy into this idea that he's a great centre forward waiting to be discovered if we just simply play him there. I don't know about that. We've not really seen enough evidence of it so far. But one thing is, it does score from those positions. Whether he would be able to do it consistently as like a run, if you were to accept him maybe as the third choice centre forward. I'm not suggesting Celtic should do this, but if you were to do it, I don't know if he would be able to do it consistently enough. But he does score from those positions. There's no getting away from it. However, everything else he does is
so alert.
Very limited.
The reactions of a mongoose.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a good problem Celtic have got now because we have Jota out, right, fine, we have to find creativity from other places, but guys like Mooy and Hatate are stepping up, but you're looking at the wingers and I didn't think Forrest or Maeda played particularly well. They did good things in the Hearts game, but again, James Forrest has scored 4 goals in 3 games. Maeda hasn't played well, scores a goal against Hearts, then has a hand in the last goal as well, in the Motherwell game. And you're like, right, he's got 2 goals in 3 games, and Abada, no contributors, he's got goals as well. So we're having these guys all not playing particularly well, but scoring. You're like, all right, lads, it would be a problem if it was like the St Mirren game and people weren't performing, or we were going back a few weeks when we had none of them were performing. You're like, right, who's going to play when Jota's out? But they're all doing okay and scoring goals, which, fine.
See, when you look at our performances recently, and particularly the performances of some of these players that have really, really ramped it up, Reo Hatate is one of them. But when you look at our performances in the last couple of games, and then you think back to that St Mirren game,
I know.
You're like, what happened? Honestly, what happened?
It really is. I think the mounting evidence for this is it just was a bad day. It was just a blip, wasn't it? We at the time we said it was due to the amount of changes, or not necessarily the amount of changes, but the type of changes that were made, because all of the changes kind of exposed a lot of flaws. Like Stephen Welsh looked really bad because he wasn't next to Carter Vickers and so on. But I think the reality is it was just a bad day at the office, just a shocker of a game, because everybody who played in that game, well, for the most part, everyone has turned it on since. Even Maeda, who, we've already mentioned him, Mel, you listed that he's had a couple of goals, but he should have had a really clever assist against Hearts as well, when he kind of padded it back off to Mooy, who the advancing Aaron Mooy into the box had missed, sclaffed it left-footed from about 4 yards.
See, when he did that, I took the nickname, the bald Zidane. Took it off.
Take it away.
You can't have it. You can have it back if you start to turn it on again, Aaron. But
I thought he was great in the game.
Aye, but he can still be good. But we're not calling him the balls Zidane anymore.
Till he scores.
He needs to make up for that. Absolutely, that was a shocker.
I was jumping. What's happened here?
Didn't even get on target.
No longer the bald Attilio Lombardo. No, he's not even that anymore. It's that was an absolute shocker. But I think he had a really good game. Great corner for Giacomas's goal.
Yeah,
it was him that put the cross in for the weird chopped off goal, the Ralston one as well. So I think he had a great game, but that miss was
unbelievable. The ball, John Joe Shelby, he needs to pick his game up a wee bit.
Stephen wants to talk about Hatate, and we can maybe work it in here because the balance we've got in that midfield. Matt O'Reilly didn't have his best game there at the weekend, but
Hearts did a good job against him.
Yeah, and he still manages to win the ball back and keep things ticking over. But he was brilliant in the Motherwell game in the midweek. So, but just having Hatate and Mooy there, 2 completely different footballers, but just work so well in midfield together, because you've got Hatate, just this guy that's trying to make things happen, always getting that guy that comes out to the wide area, makes that overload and puts these wee passes through. And then you've got Mooy, who rarely gives the ball away, looks like he's towing a caravan, but never looks like losing the ball. And some of his passing like his delivery, the way he can set things up, and look, he's got an engine on him. It's a slow one, but he gets about the pitch and he does press.
He's a turbo diesel, isn't he?
He's a reliable but 1.1 litre. Is that what we're saying?
No. He's one of these big, slow American V8s.
Right,
like he's got a huge, big, thundering V8, but very, very slow.
Gas guzzler.
Yeah.
Basically, it doesn't last very long.
He's got torque.
Aye, it's got some impressive aspects to it, but it doesn't last very long.
Mooy's got torque, but he doesn't have speed. Right?
It's just the balance they have there.
The shit we talking about. I know, it's unbelievable, man.
Try to wrestle this back here.
7 years of this. What was that I said last week? All of our luck came home to roost at the same time or something like that.
We're sitting here criticising Tom Boyd and we're sitting here waffling. Anyway, carry on.
But it's just a good balance in there, because one gives away the ball because he tries to make things happen, but one can keep the ball and make things happen. And I think it's just good the way the two of them are playing now, because Mooy coming onto a game and it just looks like, again, that St Mirren game was a blip. He's just looking like, I can completely understand why Ange Postecoglou signed this guy completely. Now. And just Reo Hatate, you said it before we started recording, that like, since the Champions League games, he just upped it, and like, it's just class watching the guy play. You know, sometimes he's going to give silly passes away. You know, if Celtic get a throw in, he's going to attempt that pass over there. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it's sublime. And just, you know, if Celtic create something, he's going to be in there within 3 passes and it's going to end up class.
I think Hatate is a fantastic footballer. I really do. I think we've had various discussions about him and his erratic passing and his form and all that, but I think it's reached the point now where, much like with Abada last season, we just said, look, there's no point in focusing on the negatives because of the amount of positives that he brings to the team. In some ways, he's like Abada in that he's one of the guys who you think, you make the calculation thinking, right, can we afford to have him in the team when he's sometimes not in the greatest of form? And the answer is still yes. So Abada's the same, despite our reservations about Abada, what he contributes elsewhere, he still scores goals, so he's still a valuable part of the team. But Hatate it's almost like he's the opposite of that, in that you don't carry a guy like Hatate because he might get on the end of something, he might score a goal or anything like that. The reason you keep him in the team is because he's making everything else happen. Yeah, he is the guy. I haven't watched it back, but I reckon if you were to watch Celtic's last 15, 20 goals back just in a compilation, you would see key elements from Hatate in almost all of them.
14 in a week, mate.
Exactly. It's not even necessarily the assist, which is why that can sometimes be a bit of a bullshit stat. It's not necessarily the most accurate or the most telling of stats, but Hatate is often the guy who springs the attack. I can picture him several times recently being Hatate's kind of mostly the left-sided of the three in midfield, but all the time he pops up near the right corner flag and plays those clever little passes inside to an advancing Ralston. In this occasion, it was him that got the cross for Forrest's goal as well. He does that all the time, just pops out there and plays a little, just an incisive pass in behind the fullback, and our fullback runs onto it.
Was it the St Johnstone one was very similar as well?
Exactly. And
the first Hearts goal.
He popped up for the goal against Shakhtar. I know it wasn't his goal because I don't think it was even a shot. He basically just tried to cut it back and he got it in. But he's contributing so much.
Such good awareness as well of wherever there's on the pitch.
A real... Maverick has thrown it about a lot in football, but I think it applies here because he's always trying pretty outrageous things on the pitch. There's that kind of first time volleyed pass he's fond of. He likes a shot as well, but he does have that little bit unpredictable midfielder, and I think that we need that in a team because we do have really good footballers in there. Aaron Mooy, Callum McGregor, not just now obviously, but Matt O'Reilly can be a creative presence, but not necessarily just now because he's covering for Callum McGregor. But Hatate's just got that certain X factor about him that makes him a real unpredictable force on the pitch, and he's getting better and better. And I think he's player of the year material for Celtic if he continues this form, because the sky's the limit with the guy. I think he's been absolutely excellent recently, and there's absolutely no point in my mind of focusing on he's a bit erratic with his passing, because that is hugely outweighed by the amount of positive he brings to the team.
Yeah, and that's why he's going to be at Celtic. But with Hatate, you can see there's so much more improvement he can make, and that's why I love watching him. You said the word awareness there, Jamie, and it just reminded me something I wanted to say is that Hatate is so unpredictable and Mooy is so predictable, but it just works as that good balance. And the two of them, the way Celtic play is, when we're passing out from the back, they've usually got their back to go and sort of out wide. when they receive the ball, but the way you can pass it into Mooy and he's aware of everything that's around him, and he can do these wee clip balls round the side to players. You go, you know, somebody was going to be there at that second, and then somebody was there. His awareness, but Hatate's got a completely different type of awareness that's just as good and just as effective, because he can do these turns and then he does that wee sort of flick round the back that he's done so many times. It's great to watch the two guys in full flow, because when they're in full flow, so are Celtic, and we can carry sometimes when they two are playing well. Doesn't matter if Forrest and Maeda aren't creating, because things will get created for them, but it can fall down sometimes. But when we got Haksabanovic to come off and Jota coming back, you're really looking at this team going, you've got 5 guys who can play really well out wide. Haksabanovic can go in the middle, but Bumble's coming back. But you can't drop Mooy and Hatate right now. They're just playing too well.
It's a sitcom, innit? Celtic's midfield, Mooy and Hatate, they're nothing alike, but they just go together really well.
Like we're a buddy cop.
Mooy's the kind of older presence, just kind of shaking his head and giving wee smirks to Hatate, and he's running about doing whatever he wants. It's lovely stuff.
Stephen, Michael Myers sure is scary, but the last thing you need to be is hairy this Halloween. Luckily, our friends at Manscaped have launched their 4th generation performance package to make sure your pumpkins get the ultimate carving experience on this spooky day. Turn your bite-sized treat into king-sized candy and join 6 million men worldwide who trusted Manscaped. Go on to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS. Make the right call this spooky season. It's trick or trim.
Jamie, do you know what I used to do before Manscaped came along?
Broken bottles.
Scissors and or sometimes fire. It simply doesn't work, so thanks to Manscaped for finally coming along. Have you ever tried to trim your balls and it turned into a Freddy Krueger film? Well, luckily Manscaped is here to save the day and make sure you're feeling your best in your costume. Unlock your confidence with the Performance Package 4.0. Inside you'll find the holy grail of men's grooming items. They've made it easy for you to upgrade your grooming routine. It's a full moon out and the werewolf in your pants is howling. It's time to tackle that problem with the Lawnmower 4.0.
Get 20% off with free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS, TIMS, at manscaped.com. Say trick or treat to beautiful new Halloweeny with Manscaped. What I was going to say was, what is the opposite of maverick? Because if Hatate's a maverick, and Mooy might fall into this cap as well, but another guy who definitely does is Greg Taylor, because he's not a maverick at all, but he has been brilliant. And Greg, since you turned those Instagram comments on, boy, you have never looked back. And I know you listen. I know you did it because we've been saying, I know you listen to the podcast. You did it because we asked you to. And ever since he did it, it's been nothing but praise on that Instagram, Greg. Nothing but praise. It's the best thing you've ever done. And he's been on fire since, God knows, 2 or 3 months.
Well, even longer. Probably
start of the season. I did him a disservice there. Start of the year.
When he came back from remember he got that shoulder injury and he was on the touchline chewing his chewing gum. But Greg Taylor, when he came on, I thought, not that I'll criticise Ange on this, but when Celtic went 3-2 up with a Maeda goal, that's the sort of Maeda goal you're looking for, isn't it? You thought, right, settle down, Celtic. And I thought that was the point, because just as Giakoumakis was about to score his goal, or Maeda, I can't remember which one, but players were warming up, and it subsequently became the players that came on, the 3 that came on, and Kyogo. But when Giakoumakis scored, he got told to sit down. But I just thought, bring on Greg Taylor now for Bernabei. Celtic are ahead. We didn't do that, and it went 3 each. But as soon as he came on, everything just calmed down, and that was what I was talking about when Celtic were playing out. As soon as he came on, we just didn't lose the ball playing out anymore, and he became an option. The way he'll go on the outside and wait to see who comes with him, and then just do a wee feint and go back inside to receive the ball. He just gets the ball, keeps it going, and look, even if he hadn't scored, and somebody else had scored, I'd have wanted to single him out for praise, because he didn't put a foot wrong as soon as he came on. How can a left back come on and have an effect on the game? And he done it. It was absolutely incredible.
I'm so pleased for him scoring the winner.
Yeah, well, that's his first league goal for Celtic, I think. Maybe, of course, he scored against Rangers, but another guy who's been absolutely brilliant this season. In many ways, he came on and was good just purely by dint of not being Bernabei. I think had I been at the game, I wasn't. I was away out of the country, but I peek behind the curtain. Sometimes Melly sits behind me at Celtic Park, behind me and just slightly to my left, just over my shoulder. Only happens once every couple of seasons. It's rare, right? But on occasion, I get so scunnered with a performance, I'll turn around and give him the can point to a guy, and for the benefit of anyone just listening, I'm doing the substitution hand gesture, basically the spinning of the fingers as if to say, get him off.
Yes.
And I think Bernabei may have been the recipient of one of those had I been at the game. But Greg Taylor came on completely absolutely buzzing to score his goal as well. What a celebration it was. He's always still got that resting knackered face at all times, but he was overjoyed to score that goal. And what a big goal it was, because again, as much as we've spoken about how we're confident that Celtic get the job done, I think what you were describing earlier, Melly, was just faith in the team, the belief in the team rather than arrogance. I think that's probably a better way to put it. But as much as you keep the faith, keep the hail, as it says over your shoulder there, Jamie. It was a weird enough game that it could have gone either way. Anything could have happened in that game, as we've already described. So, Greg Taylor, huge moment, and I'm buzzing for him every bit as much as he is for himself.
It was an important goal in the context of the game. It turned out to be an important goal in the context of the league, because Rangers ended up dropping points with Livingston to help us restore our lead at the top to 4 points.
Ruin Lana Wilson birthday.
Celtic are out league duty and on to Champions League stuff. Melly, what can we possibly get for this?
We need to win, don't we? We need to win this one. We're out, but we've seen progress, we've seen performances, but this is a chance to go out and win a game. It's against a team that we probably should beat, we already should have beat. For it to be like, right, okay, we can see real progress, I think we need to get 3 points in one of these two games. Probably not going to be in a Real Madrid game, so this is the one to target. And look, we've still got a chance of getting Europa League no matter how slim it is, but we have to go out and win. And
maybe remind the listeners and me, for those who don't quite understand that, how do we get into Europa League again?
We need to better Shakhtar's points tally, whether that's get 4 points from these two games or get 6 points.
Okay.
So it's a win and a draw at least.
So if we beat Shakhtar and then lose to Real Madrid, which you would think, but Shakhtar also lose their next two games, we get into the Europa League.
No, we need 4 points.
Oh, we need 4 points to get into the Europa League. Right?
Yeah.
I thought you meant Shakhtar's points totally over the next two games, so we need 4 points. Oh, Stephen, much faith in that?
Well, I mean, all focus is now on the Europa League. We've already done our autopsy of the Champions League run, so no sense going back into that. All the focus now is on the slim but possible chance of getting into the Europa League.
Why don't we just look at the Shakhtar game then in isolation, Stephen? Do you think, forget everything else, forget the position we're in the group as a whole, it's a game we can win. It's a tie we can win.
How I would tie it to the
tie.
Yeah, to the tie, to the group itself, is that maybe one of the biggest obstacles to this game is just knowing that we're out.
Yeah.
That could possibly have a psychological blow to the confidence of the team, because it hasn't gone all that well. We've spoken at length about how it's a kind of hard luck story. We should have done better. But at the same time, now we've been told in no uncertain terms that we're out of this competition. So it's up to the players and Ange, of course, as well, to redouble the efforts and galvanise the team to go into this and try and win. But there's no getting away from the fact human nature might suggest that we're out of this competition. And they know as well as we do. We've just sat here and kind of rolled our eyes at the chances of actually getting into the Europa League. They know that as well. I'm not saying that the players will have completely lost belief, but there's no doubt that target has been taken away from us. So
I think it might do us good. I think a lot of these players have struggled under the limelight of the Champions League. I think a lot of them have shied away for the big stage. I don't think they've grasped this opportunity, and I think having this pressure off them to just go out and play. You're out of the competition already. Just go out and play and see what can happen. I think we've discussed in the podcast the last couple of weeks players that have passed and players that have failed and players that have maybe found the challenge too much, found the stage too much. Ange said it himself about anxieties and all that at this level, challenges and anxieties. I think the fact that we're out of this competition might stand in our favour tomorrow, Melly.
It might do, and I think this game might be the telling one, and the fact that, look, we're out, but we're going into this having scored 14 goals in a week. Well, in the last 3 games, sorry. So there's no problem scoring goals for Celtic in these games. So if we get into this game and miss 5 or 6 clear-cut chances, then maybe it is a Champions League. Maybe it is missing these chances at this level rather than Scotland. So time will tell on that, but I think it could just be like, if Celtic play the way they've been playing in the previous 4 games and get that slice of luck, I think that's all that's missing, where you get that chance and it goes in. it's no quite happened for us, but no reason for us not to go out and do that. We played very well against Shakhtar away from home, should have beat them, but again, you're in the Champions League and you just look and go, that Mudryk could rip us apart.
Yeah,
with
he's the fastest kid alive.
2 chances, and you're like, that is what you're up against, because Celtic could again go out, play well, play brilliant, and like in the first game, it's really not a nothing ball, but it's a ball down the line, and he just powers through and bags it. You're like, okay, that doesn't happen often to us.
Juranovic as well, when he absolutely
no
torched him for speed. I know
Yeah.
he's arguably the fastest player we've got in the team, and he just absolutely torched him. Yeah, the point I made a minute ago about how psychological blows can happen, and you might find yourself a little bit demotivated for this. I'm really only presenting a kind of devil's advocate argument for it. What I generally think about the game is that there's no reason for us to go to that game not thinking we're going to win, because I think Celtic are good enough to go and get the win. I think they deserve a win in the Champions League, and this is the best opportunity to get one. As much as we're already out, it's still a chance to go out and prove something in Europe. But still, to go out and get a win would be a big achievement, because we know it's not easy. We've sat here for weeks bemoaning the fact that this is really hard to win.
Yeah.
Shakhtar,
It's really hard.
there's still teams playing for things. Shakhtar still need to qualify and all that. So we just need to go out and hope that everything that Celtic have built in the Champions League, not in terms of points, I know that, but everything Celtic have been sort of working towards comes together in this game. Hopefully it does, and I think there's every reason for fans to expect, might seem like a strong word, but we should be going into this fancying it, to be honest. Should be confident.
I'd agree with that, and we will be there. We will have, as we've discussed before, a match reaction podcast. At the Match it's called. But most of all, thanks for listening to 3 guys shitting around talking about Celtic. If you watch us on YouTube, please hit subscribe. If you listen to this on iTunes or Apple or something, please leave us a little review. But most of all, thanks for watching and listening.